Harrison Price for September the 4th, 2025, a presentation of Bet365. Blake Price alongside Jeff Paterson, who's back for another tour as guest host. Matt away until next week, and we're coming to you here from the historic Oil Center downtown and from the Pacific Toyota Dealers Studios. Welcome back to the Pacific Toyota Dealers and their confidence here in the Harrison Price Show. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Can someone please put out the fires? We're all smoking unfiltered Camels right now. Lifted a bit in the evening yesterday, but the sore throats and the headaches I could do without here, Jeff.
I was going to say, I can see you here on my screen. I can barely see you there 6 feet to my right in studio.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the warm weather here late, this extra bit of summer here, taking us right till the autumn equinox. Is that the autumnal equinox? Is that what happens on September the 22nd? But I could do without the smoke.
You see some of the video on the Coca-Cola?
No.
Like, it was closed for a while last night in both directions. Fire jumped the highway, and it was on both. There's some wild
harrowing.
Video. Yeah.
And it was such a good summer, but we have not had a lot of rain lately. And everybody be safe with regards to that, and hopefully the air does improve in the not too distant future. Thankfully for the Canucks returning to the ice.
Speaking of clearing the air.
There's that. But they don't have to breathe that in. The air inside Doug Mitchell Thunderbird Sports Center is a little bit better. But it has prompted today's poll question for us to ponder. The poll question brought to you by Bogey Juice. Everybody knows of birdie juice, of course. But do you actually know what it tastes like? Because the birdies are few and far between for most of us. But you do get bogeys. Everybody gets bogeys. Apple, ginger, and now a new variety, grape, is available. Individual portions. You can pour it over ice with soda after your round, filled with bogeys. Celebrate your mediocrity with Bogey Juice. Go to bogeyjuice.com to order the juice or get your fabulous swag. They've got a great team store there as well. Which are you more excited about right now? Because, yes, the Canucks are back on the ice in formal workouts, which tells you we're close. But the NFL starts tonight. Cowboys and Eagles, good NFC rivalry, in-division rivalry. Thursday night, the world looking at it. Disappointment viewing. But the hockey players are back too. Are you torn here at all? And this is from our hockey nerd here in Jeff Paterson.
I'm a sucker for opening night in all sports.
Anything, yeah.
And it doesn't get any bigger, really, than the NFL, at least in North American sports. They do it upright. And, of course, it's not just opening night. This is a one-off. It's opening weekend with a Friday game, Sunday, the full slate on Sunday, and then Monday as well. Look, as much as I like hockey and will be fully immersed for the next 8 months, I will defer to the National Football League, give them their launch weekend here. There's a ton going on. September is always a great time in sports. We have that debate too. You know, the spring has a lot going on as you build up to the Stanley Cup playoffs. But boy, you get past Labor Day, football on both sides of the border. Hockey is in the offing. Baseball playoffs just around the corner. Keeping pretty close tabs on what's going on in the U.S. Open. The tennis variety. Ryder Cup is just around the corner this year as well. So, there's a lot going on. But I would say, to answer the poll question, a little more excited about opening week. I just always, Sunday is incredible when you just sit back and there is the smorgasbord that is a full day of National Football League on, just flip the channels, basically take your pick. And
everybody wants the good start, Jeff. Yep. Everybody wants to go 1-0 at the very least, preserve. Like, even if you think you're a pretty bad team, hey, winning opening week is still doable for every team. It's on the table for everybody.
Even the Browns?
Maybe not the Browns. Right. But the Cowboys, you never know. You never know. And I've said this too. Like, the NFL is something else. There's no doubt hockey intrinsically is, I think, a more exciting sport. It's way more nonstop action, way less stoppages. It's great. But the TV show, the NFL TV show is the best sports TV show that you can get. There's no doubt about it, which is remarkable, Jeff, given the amount of stoppages, the amount of actual action. I forget what the stat is on NFL games, but it's a remarkably low number of minutes of actual sport being played. And yet this continent is, now maybe the globe, given there's a game in Sao Paulo tomorrow, this continent is transfixed by this league because of the TV show. It's a great TV show.
To that point, like I generally think nothing looks better on my television than the Masters each spring.
It's pretty darn good.
The way they light NFL stadiums.
Especially the prime times, yes.
I think that the green from the grass in some of those stadiums on my television is actually better than Augusta National.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's something around this, that the average NFL game has the same number of cameras pointed on it as a Grey Cup. So, we ramp up to the Grey Cup and try to make that the best TV show possible. That's just an NFL game.
That's the baseline.
That's the baseline. Like, it is really incredible what they do. So, and many of you involved in fantasy and pools and all that sort of stuff. So that adds an extra element, even if you're, a Seahawks fan, for instance. Cowboys and Eagles is going to have some cachet for you. So cast your vote. We'll see where you stand on that for the next show. NFL starting tonight are the Canucks skating at UBC, which brings us to our top story today, presented by Yellow Dog Brewing, Yellow Dog Spirits, Neighborhood Brewing, and Foolish Wine. The boys are indeed back in town, figuratively, literally, all of it, at least some of them.
Most of them.
Yeah, most of them probably. With the team golf tournament on Monday, many here early to work out. These are the ones definitively seen at UBC. Elias Pettersson, I won't say squared, times 2. Both of them are there. Brock Besser, Evander Kane, Vitaly Kravtsov, Jonathan Lekromacki, Marcus Pettersson, Kirill Kudryavtsev, Nikita Tolopilo, Arshdeep Bains, Kevin Lankinen, Thatcher Demko, Tom Wielander, Vilmer Ulrichsen, Derek Forbort, Philip Roenick, and P.O. Joseph. It's an interesting mix, Jeff, because...
But that was yesterday, Blake.
That was yesterday, yes.
But wait, there's more.
There's more.
Jake DeBrusk and Kiefer Sherwood have joined the group today.
There you go.
So they're getting closer. From that, I would basically say Quinn Hughes, Connor Garland, Philip Heedle are the notables that still haven't arrived. There are a few. Teddy Blueger, I think, is... hasn't been seen yet, but
and Heedle's worn team colors already at this media event and stuff like. So he's been working on behalf of the Canucks already, if you will.
But for the most part, they're here,
and I'm intrigued to see Heedle because of course he's coming off injury, but so are other guys like Demko and Pettersson. So good to just see them. So often we see guys coming off of off-season injuries where they don't show up for the first week. Maybe they're not even there on the ice for first day of training, and that story persists. So far, there's no inclination or no indication that that's going to be the case here for anybody, Jeff.
No, I know midsummer, Patrick Alvin said at one point that if training camp started tomorrow, everybody was healthy.
That's right. I remember he did say that, yeah.
Now, guys can have off-season injuries.
They could get nicked tomorrow, yes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that's pretty good attendance for a week before the team golf tournament and still 2 weeks before training camp. Yeah, I mean, again, all these things are tiny, but they're also steps in the right direction, that guys are here and healthy and getting together and trying to form and forge that chemistry and those bonds and whatever else. Again, this team is leaning into vibes in a big way this year, Blake. And so anything they can do here in the first week of September can't hurt them.
The other vibe there, or the other theme that I see from the list of guys that have shown up already, guys looking to show well in training camp. Guys on the bubble, A, for the roster, B, for playing time. P.O. Joseph here already. Tom Wielander here already. Kravtsov, Lekromacki. All these guys want more time than they've been given. In the case of a guy like Kravtsov, wants back in the league, for heaven's sakes. Again, nothing's won here. The coaches aren't even on hand looking at them yet. But the point is, these guys have shown up. They want to ramp up their preparation so that when they do hit the ground running in Penticton in just under 2 weeks, that they look as good as they can possibly look here, Jeff.
Yeah, and look, and again, this is what we do for a living. We talk about the Canucks, and so we come at it from every angle. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but a guy like Kravtsov here, well before training camp, that's a good sign to me, because there was a part of me that wondered, is this guy just going to roll in here and try to rest on the laurels of, I was the 6th leading scorer in the KHL last year, look at me go. Look, the last time we saw him, the 16 games that he played for the Canucks, he wasn't very good.
No.
And so, again, it's a small thing, but it's a step in the right direction that he's here early and wants to be involved and getting, around these players and the group and try to be ready, as you said, to make some sort of statement. Training camp's so short. That's the other thing. We build it up to training camp. Training camp is essentially 3 days of on-ice sessions, and they're playing preseason games. So these skates, to some degree, you're not graded on what you're doing out at UBC right now, but this is all part of the ramping up process to be ready to put your best foot forward when camp officially begins.
The next guy I'm going to mention is on the team. There's no question there. Question is, what does he bring? And the question also was, what does Evander Kane look like in team colors? And I honestly was a little bit arrested by the by the visage. I was like, wow, yeah, like that's weird, seeing him in Canucks blue and white, if you will, which was what the practice jerseys were that they were wearing. But watching him this preseason initially is going to be interesting. Training camp's not going to tell us much because, again, he's on the team. But early chemistry, speed, willingness to engage, at this late stage of his career, I'm going to be interested to watch Evander Kane.
Yeah, and I know we're going to hear from him here in a sec. Look, everything since the trade has trended in the right direction with this guy. For a player who comes with all this baggage of off ice and distractions, and is he going to be a good teammate? Look, the day of the trade, I guess it was the day after the trade when they brought him in here, and he was, wearing the Canucks colored suit right away, and was highly engaging. I was in the room that day, and this guy, he's an imposing figure physically, but he's got a presence, and he seems like he's going to get in a good headspace here. Back home, seems relaxed. He knows how to get out to UBC. Didn't have to get directions from teammates. He knows how to get to UBC. And so, again, these are all encouraging things. I want to give him every benefit of the doubt that there's still game at the age of 34. I looked all right at times in the playoffs, took a few too many penalties, but that comes with the package. That's part of Evander Kane. He certainly can play a role on this team that isn't particularly big and physical up front, especially after trading Dakota Joshua away. So, there is absolutely a role waiting for Evander Kane. Can he carry it out over the course of an entire season? Can he stay focused? Can he stay directed? And some of those are fair questions, I think. But right now, in early September, guy seems like he's in a pretty good spot.
I think Canucks fans will be very happy if they get to say the sentence, Evander Kane is taking too many penalties in these playoffs.
That's a trade-off.
That will mean that they're there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kane did speak and had this to say about the early impressions and the prognostications of where this could go with the forward set on the Canucks.
Well, I think we're a team that's going to, work really hard. I think, we have some great skill up front. Obviously, you got Petey, running down the middle there, and he looks like he's come into this season, with a bit of a new look and probably a slightly different attitude, which is obviously going to bode well for us. And it's going to start with him, and it's going to be on everybody to help him out and, produce offensively at a high level with our entire forward group.
I don't know if he's just going on the media speculation, but maybe he saw Petey in the dressing room, was like, that's a new look. But he seems to have some confidence in the return to VP40.
Yeah, no, I kind of got a kick out of the early review.
Yeah.
And again, maybe some lobbying here to be a line mate for Elias Pettersson, sooner rather than later. We'll see. But no, it's sunshine and roses. And that 32 markets around the league, optimism abounds at this time of the year.
Yeah.
Evander Kane just getting here, settling in,
Well, he also spoke on the importance of that because he's the new guy. Unlike a lot of the guys, and even the AHL guys that are trying to make the team, they know these guys. They've set foot in the room before. But as Kane outlines here, he's the new guy, and it's important to get in early.
Really good opportunity to do that because I know we go up to Penticton, so once you get off the ice, you have that downtime and that free time to kind of get to know guys more, go for lunches, go for dinner. So I think that's a nice foundation to kind of start from, and then obviously once you get on the ice, building chemistry with guys on the ice and integrating kind of your game with other people's games, I think will help early to hopefully start the season off well.
Was that the ghost of David Quadrelli in the background there?
He is back. He married Mr. David Quadrelli, yes.
Right, yes.
Congratulations to David on the nuptials. Hey, he's an outgoing personality. I think at times it has gotten him in trouble. That's part of the knock against Evander Kane in his history has been he's a lot to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But he seems to have found the volume control a little bit here in his later years. And again, it's the only thing we have to go on, Jeff, is that at Edmonton, everyone spoke volumes about his ability to control volume.
Yeah,
if you will.
Look, the reports at Edmonton were that he was a terrific teammate.
Yeah.
And now, a couple things. One is, organizationally, their focus was on winning the Stanley Cup, right? And they just didn't have any time or place for anybody that wasn't fully on board or stepped out of line. The other part there is the leadership group. Pretty strong.
Yep.
In Edmonton. And so Evander did his part. Of course, he wasn't part of the group in the regular season last year, but healed up and was ready to go and had a dozen points. We talked about the penalties. He had 12 points in 21 games after not playing all season, and then to produce at a reasonable rate when the games are that much tougher. To me, that's an encouraging sign that there is still something in that player, even at the age of 34.
Join Yellow Dog Brewing on September the 6th, this Saturday, for Silver Star Beer and Cider Fest. What a great spot. If you happen to be in the interior, Silver Star Mountain going to be flowing with delicious craft beers and ciders all day long with mouthwatering food, amazing musical acts as well. So grab your tickets to see Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, and Yellow Dog Spirits and more. I'm assuming the bike park's still open at Silver Star. Apparently that is a really fun bike park if you're in the vicinity. Speaking of leadership group, Quinn Hughes speaking to Ian McIntyre of the Post Media, we'll call it. And, I mean, he does a really good job here of, I think, quashing the story just a little bit and returning some confidence into him. One of the big buzz sentences coming out of this is that he can handle the noise.
Right.
That he understands that there's going to be a lot of talk about his contract, a lot of talk about this team and its successes or slash failures. But he says he's up for it, Jeff.
Yeah, I thought the quotes, again, represented maturity on the part of Quinn Hughes. He's not ducking the issue. He recognizes that there is noise. He just talked about how he's doing everything he can to live in the present. And in the present, as he says, this isn't really even an issue until next summer. I mean, he can have discussions with his family and those close to him, but he can't put pen to paper until next summer.
No.
And so basically saying, this really isn't an issue in the here and now. And so, look, the Canucks are paying him to be at his best and deliver. And I think it's best for Quinn Hughes to sort of take that mindset of just be the best you can be today. But I think it speaks to maturity. And there was the one line in there, and he's like, that's why they named me captain. And I was like, all right.
That's why I'm the captain of the team, because I can handle these things and
Exactly.
I can play at an elite level, and it doesn't matter what's going on around me. And we did see that. Like last year, I mean, if you want to have the smallest of quibbles about his year last year, is that he just at times wanted to do it all himself because he felt like maybe he was the only one capable of doing it at the time.
He looked at the team statistics.
Yes, it was like, I guess it's me. So, yeah, he proved last season that he can do it.
Well, I mean, up until Christmas, he was in the discussion of
remarkable.
Hart candidates.
Yes.
I'm not saying he was a front runner, but like he played at that level. He won the Norris the year before. I don't know if people remember, like from the start of last season until Christmas, he upped his game. And then he got hurt and he had to play with that splint on his hand. And then there was the oblique and things started to unravel from there. But in the first 35 or 40 games, like he was better last year than he had been the previous season when he won the Norris and had 92 points. So I always loved Quinn Hughes because there are so few weaknesses in his game, but each summer he seems to address and attack them and then come back with vengeance and take his game to another level. So I'm excited to see him back on the ice and see what he can do. But I like the fact like he recognizes that, yeah, this is a storyline in a market like Vancouver, and it's not going away. But as you said, he did a pretty good job, I think, of trying to tamp it down, get out in front of it so that hopefully he doesn't have to answer a lot of questions as the season goes along. And then the other part there was the quote about, we may not be the most skilled team.
Yes.
Again, an awareness on his part. Not trying to fool anybody. He recognizes that, yeah, there could be some issues here generating enough offense to be competitive on a regular basis.
And I can understand that one hitting some Canuck fans the wrong way because are you saying we're not good? No, he's not saying that. He's saying that, hey, the Oilers, probably the most skilled team in the league the last couple of years. Like skilled, maybe you know would be in the conversation. The Leafs. What I'm saying is there are really skilled teams that just they bowl you over with their quote unquote skill, but they don't win the cup necessarily. And so Quinn Hughes' point, I think, is we're not going to be vying for the most skill, but he thinks teamwork and how they play can carry them far.
It's funny. Remember last year, like. The people in Calgary loved the Flames because they were the little guys that worked hard.
Yeah.
And ultimately, they didn't win the Stanley Cup. They didn't even make the playoffs. But they were still seen in Calgary as a success because the expectations were so low at the outset of the season and they kind of punched above their weight and they were plucky and all that. Like, they were a likable bunch. And then I just compare that to the product the Canucks put forward last year, which was anything but likable. Mm-hmm. And so you can be a team that is underskilled and outmatched on a lot of nights, but you can still win your fans over with the way that you play and ultimately how you perform. And a huge part of that, too, is they got to be better. They have to be, and they can't be worse on home ice than they were last year.
No.
So give the people what they want and what they paid for, and that is have some success at home and then take your chances as the visitors and out on the road. But, can this group, with the changes they've made, can they get back in the likable column?
Well, and also, like, truthfully, I think last year makes this year feel like they are underskilled. I mean, you can't do this, but, I don't think anybody would be saying that if Paterson's coming off another 100-point season, if Höglander's coming off of a 20-goal season. Like you got the potential to sort of completely erase last season if guys like those two perform like we know we have seen. Like, you're going to feel a lot better about the skill level. Like, I think there's a pessimistic view that would say this team is average at best skill-wise, like not even in the top half. But that's colored so greatly by what we saw last year. Hedl, a career year from Hedl, not even a career year. If you match his career year to date, you probably feel a lot better. 22-goal campaign from Hedl. Like, that makes the skill level seem a lot better. They have to do it. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but certainly the potential is there. The other interesting thing, we talked a little bit about this on Tuesday, about Adam Foote and what to expect there. Man, does Adam Foote sound like an eager beaver, not only to be a head coach, but he sounds like a guy that wants to not be best friends, but I think he wants really good relationships with especially the leadership group, but his players in general, I think, and good rapport. And I think as much as we think Rick Tocchet had a good rapport with his team, I think that's one thing that Adam Foote is most certainly trying to replicate in his tenure.
Yeah, to the point that Quinn Hughes felt like he almost wanted to hide his phone.
He had to draw boundaries.
But I think this works in Adam Foote's favor, having been here through the dysfunction.
Yeah.
And seeing the toll that took on the locker room. And we know now that this isn't just media talk, that Jim Rutherford has come out and said it derailed last season.
Yeah.
And for Adam Foote to have been there, I mean, part of you might say, well, why didn't he speak up? Why wasn't he able to change things? You know, he wasn't the head coach. And they all have to wear the fact that, you know, they just couldn't get it together and back on board. But they've turned the page. But Adam Foote has seen the damage and what a divisive locker room looks like and what it's like to slog through a season with that. And so I think he's working extra hard to try to push the ball to the other end of the spectrum here, that, you know, he wants to be in tune with the players. He wants to be in touch, have the pulse on what's going on, even through the summer months. And that will probably continue here through September and training camp and all those types of things. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But, yeah, he seems like he is pretty keen to make sure that this thing stays on the straight and narrow.
So Quinn Hughes is playing for 2 more years, right? At least. More on Hughes and the future of him and another superstar in the NHL coming up in a little bit with Jeff Merrick. News now about training camp up in Penticton, as we mentioned. We can't wait to go visit our friends at Yellow Dog and Neighborhood Brewing and have a fun time up there. We'll be up there for a show on the Friday. But some details emerge here, Jeff, about what it's going to cost Canuck fans to get in.
Yeah, up to this point, we had been told by the hockey club that training camp was September 18th to 21st, but that was essentially it. They confirmed this morning that there will be the annual training camp scrimmage on Saturday the 20th. Don't have the start time yet, but the blue-white annual training camp scrimmage takes place on Saturday, September 20th. So from that, you can deduct that Thursday and Friday will be the standard first 2 days on ice, probably in 2 groups, although there's 2 sheets of ice there at the South Okanagan, so they might split into 3, who knows. And then Saturday will be the scrimmage. What's interesting is they play their first preseason game on Sunday in Seattle, and so there'll probably be a morning skate of the playing group in Penticton, and then they'll fly directly to Seattle to kick off the preseason. So they start training camp, and before they know it, they're into preseason action. But yes, scrimmage on the 20th, the Saturday, $40.
Sorry, what?
$40.
$40.
Yeah, and that's not like for the whole family. That's $40 per ticket.
$40.
$40 for the scrimmage day. Thursday and Friday, $13. They're charging $6.50 on Sunday, so I'm guessing Sunday's going to be quick, like in and out.
I think it's going to be a very skeletal crew on Sunday too. So,
but yes, if you want to take in the scrimmage on Saturday, that's $40. That's a lot to ask hockey fans who have been used to paying BC Hockey League prices forever, and now are being asked to buck up for Western Hockey League action. And then here come the Canucks off the top rope, $40 for their training camp scrimmage.
Which often is how long? 2
periods.
2 periods often. It's not even a hockey game. Interesting. We'll see how much people bite into that.
And it doesn't say anything in the release. I do hope that some of that $40 per ticket would go to charity. I mean, the Canucks have been very good about leaving a charitable imprint in whatever market they go to, and so I'm sure there will be.
But it's not readily available on that press release as to whether that's happening or not, so that's unclear. Before we get to a this day in history kind of moment, we have a super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Jeff, on YouTube, writing in. And don't forget, partial proceeds go to the BC Mental Health Foundation when you do select the super chat. Jeff saying, everything else equal, how many points in the standings do you think a peak EP40 is versus last year's EP40? It's a very tough question to answer, obviously. But if you're talking 100-point PD available for every game versus what we saw last year, I'm willing to go the mile that it is at the minimum the requisite 3 wins they would have needed to make the playoffs. I think that is a reasonable, if not more.
Yeah, I was debating is it double digits. So
Points.
I think I was, points.
Yeah.
So that puts me in sort of the 9-10 camp.
I don't think you're crazy to say it.
Like, just consider this. Remember how bad they were in overtime?
Yes,
last year.
right. I forgot about that. Oh,
Elias Pettersson didn't score an overtime goal for them last year.
yeah.
Peak Petey of the 102-point season was a dynamo. Remember that game in St. Louis where he went back and he picked up the puck in front of his own net and just whistled down the left wing and unleashed a slap shot and beat Jordan Binnington? Like, that thing is still ingrained in my brain all these years later. I see it on a loop. Like, we didn't see that once in overtime from this guy that was a true game breaker. So I think at the very least he probably wins a couple of the overtime games that they lost and has enough impact on a few other games to win them outright on his own, just with those sort of superhuman.
Yeah, those are the easiest points to get. You're right. If he is a full-on confident superstar, I mean, 3 overtime winners.
Yeah.
Seems like there's an easy 3 points, never mind, the single points that might have been gained, by
So I think at his peak, and that's the way the question's labeled, I think an individual playing at that level should be able to swing 5 outcomes basically on his own.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's his peak, but he was certainly there and looked pretty good.
It was a peak.
Yes. 5 years ago today, the Canucks were eliminated from the playoffs.
But it's September 4th. What are you talking about? Playing hockey? What?
Yes, the bubble playoff run ended for the Canucks 5 years ago today. Post Media just actually did a piece on this a week ago wondering what has gone wrong since then. And it's a complicated story because, Jeff, between that and I hesitate to use the word run 2 years ago, because unlike the bubble, which was 3 opponents, this was only 2 years ago, but it was a fun ride 2 years ago. It's a really weird 5-year grouping for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah.
Not linear.
When they came out of the bubble, they were one of the sexiest teams in the National Hockey League. They had this goaltender that had been thrust into the limelight and went nuclear to the point that Game 7 against Vegas, and the bubble's so funny. Things that I've forgotten. I was looking at the series scores of that series against Vegas.
Yeah.
There were 8 games listed. Because remember, they had the game that was postponed by the player protest and the uprising.
Right.
And so it's listed as 8 games, and then one of them is postponed. But I was like, wait a sec. Oh, yeah, there was that. Game 7 against Vegas, they lost 3-0. It was scoreless with 6 minutes to play in the third period.
Wow.
And then Shea Theodore scored. And then there were a couple of late ones. But yeah, coming out of the bubble, you had Thatcher Demko. You had Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson, their first look at playoff hockey. And of course, it was the most bizarre hockey scenario, environment, whatever, that yes, it was playoffs, but it wasn't, packed with fans. And
No, the vibes weren't there. No.
But still, just in terms of playing against other decent teams, both Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson performed well. Bo Horvat put on a show. A couple of the goals that he
Quinn
scored.
Hughes, nearly a point per game.
Yeah.
16 points in 17 games.
Miller. Tyler Toffoli had been added there and, had found some chemistry and was settling in. And,
10 goals for Horvat. Honestly.
They came out of the bubble and you thought, the sky's the limit for this group. And then, of course, with the whole pandemic and the league calendar, it was Thanksgiving weekend. Toffoli and Markstrom and Tanev and Stetcher all walked away because the Canucks had turned off the financial taps. And it kind of started to slide from there, and they've never really got it back.
They have not figured it out since. Let's hope it's a little bit more predictable going forward, although who knows? Here's the menu for today's show, folks. Brought to you by Greta Bar YVR. It's a great spot to watch the big games. Many of you that work downtown, you want a way to sort of, as everybody gets back into the swing of things here in September, great way for team building and bonding for your group, your team. Check out Greta. Great street food. The arcade is so fun, again, for that bonding and stuff. More info to book your event, go to gretabar.com. There is a separate space, though, that is perfect. We use it for our own events there. Greta Bar at 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. Jeff Merrick of The Sheet will join us from the Nation Network. Hockey slinking back. We'll talk to him. Hughes' future, Kane as a Canuck, and what is expected of him. McDavid's future in Edmonton. If you're a Canucks fan, what are you cheering for? The boiling down of that city if he leaves, or do you like having the best player in the sport on the regular in your building and as an opponent, as a boogeyman to try to take down? I don't know. I think you can see it both ways. And maybe as well, a little bit on the NHL stifling trades, either on purpose or inadvertently. Get into all that with him. Plus, Gregg Bell of the Tacoma News Tribune, our Seahawks insider, on a couple of very interesting changes for the Hawks. Like, they may be downright unrecognizable in terms of how they play the game this year. Simplifying the O-line is going to be a big part of that. They're going to run with a huge lineup, which you have to hear to believe, and possible trickery involving Jalen Milroe. We get into that, the promising young quarterback. Final segment, we'll chew on the historic run for Felix at the U.S. Open. J's and M's going in different directions, and a smidge of Canadian soccer as well. Time for our best bets of the day, brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Sekeres and Price. Jeff, want to take it? You were so close.
That's all right. I got the result I was looking for on the court, if not on the betting slip. We should mention the BC Lions are back in action.
Yes.
Tomorrow, flew out this morning. They're in Ottawa, the nation's capital. Essentially a must-win game for a team that got slapped around in Toronto before the bye. They're facing the Red Blacks, who are the worst team in the Canadian Football League. Lions are 6.5-point favorites on the road. So that kind of gives you a sense. Everybody in the league is getting their points off the Ottawa Red Blacks. The BC Lions have to get theirs as well. I'm going to give the Lions their due, that they're going to have used the bye effectively. Mm-hmm. They understand that they weren't anywhere close to good enough, particularly on defense against Toronto. And so hopefully some professional pride kicks in here. I will lay the points and take the BC Lions.
Those are the two weakest teams in the East. It should have been a sweep. They should be going for a fourth straight win. You can't go back in time now. You have to go 3-1 in these four games. You got those two wins early. You dropped the ball, figurative, literally, versus Toronto. You need to get that Ottawa win. And they'd be an above 500 team on the road if they did. They've got to figure out BC plays. They're like the Seahawks last year, for heaven's sakes. It's very, very odd. You were so close on your Felix bet. I'm going to go into Felix. Not because I think he will win necessarily, but I can't afford not to bet on him too. Because needless to say, he's an underdog versus Jannik Sinner. We'll talk about this again in the final segment. But is he this much of an underdog? It's a big number. Plus 1,600. This is not a golf tournament. Like, that's for a golfer in a 144-man field in the PGA. You know, Scheffler's
plus
Final
Four now. Like, this is one of the Final Four.
But this is just for the match. Plus 1,600 for the Canadian to win. Here's the other little bit of info you need. He's 2-1 lifetime versus Sinner. Now, I don't think there's been something super recent. I think it's been a couple years maybe since they faced each other. Or no, Cincinnati, they did play each other. And that was the one Sinner win. But Felix started his career with 2 wins versus Jannik Sinner. You can draw upon some of that experience, no doubt. Let's go Felix. Whatever your bet is, never ordinary. Bet365. Download the app today. Get in on the game. Use the code NATION. Bet365 must be 19 years or older. Please play responsibly. Big show ahead. Jeff Merrick is next. It's Harrison Price from the Wall Center, and this show a presentation of Simply Spiked. I know that everybody's a little bit depressed. We've got only a couple of weeks officially of summer left. But as long as you're still drinking Simply Spiked, summer goes on for as long as you want. It is the drink of summer. You can have it in November, and it will extend summer all the way there. I promise it may even stop the rain from falling. I can't make that as an official promise, however. But with 3 different flavors to choose from, and within each box, 3 separate flavors therein, lemonade box, limeade box, and the peach box, you're never bored of the flavors that Simply Spiked has to offer. I know you've indulged.
Well, no.
You still haven't indulged?
Well, because there was a promise made on this show, and I may have to go back and review some tape, but there was something about a box of lime coming my way that hasn't quite made it my way yet.
I've got a case lying around.
All right. I'm going to hold it.
I'll go to the Simply Spiked tree in my backyard, pluck a freshly...
The well. Yes.
If you've got a group coming over, a hang, it's a great drink to have in the quiver. Make sure you have your Simply Spiked on hand for the next time you've got people over, or you're headed to the dock. There's real juice in Simply Spiked. You're trying to squeeze one little ounce of summer left. Simply Spiked makes it all happen. Must be 19 years of age. Please celebrate responsibly. It must be legal drinking age, depending on where you're listening to this, of course. And you can pick it up at your local liquor store, government, or otherwise. Jeff and Blake, joined by Jeff, which is where things get really confusing. Jeff Merrick, host of The Sheet.
I'm the guy in the black shirt. He's the guy
in the black
shirt. There was a show not that long ago. You had Jeff Marek and Jeff Mallet, and I was thinking, like,
that's right.
What about me? But apparently, I'm a Jeff P, and I didn't fit the full mode of that show.
That would have been really confusing if that was the show.
I stood down that day.
Jeff, we are Jeff Merrick. Merrick, I'm going to go by Merrick. You're Merrick today.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
I'm J-Pat. Whatever.
Merrick. Everybody here is. I don't know. Well, our poll question is going to determine if people are truly excited about this, but I think there's enough people that are excited about this. The Canucks are here. They have descended upon UBC.
Yes.
Guys like Evander Kane are wearing the logo for the first time, albeit a practice jersey. This is a yard marker in our hockey calendar. It's not a significant one, but hey, Elias Pettersson, the forward, is here. So is the D. But
yes,
guys are descending now, which is an exciting moment.
It's an exciting moment because you get to see like new players in their new unis, and some kind of you look like he was kind of born to wear that. I think that we all, considering where he's from, I think we all maybe quietly hope that Evander Kane went to Vancouver to play for the Canucks. The local boy goes home story, although that really didn't work out in Toronto with someone who's now in Vegas. But perhaps more on that at another time. I don't know though. See, sometimes when you see a player in a new jersey, it's really jarring, and you say to yourself, "Wow, I never thought I would see that." Like I'm gonna have that feeling with Ryan Reeves in San Jose. Just considering for how the longest time that market really had a lot of good old fashioned hockey hatred towards that player. Like that one's just going to seem seem a little bit bizarre to me, but no, it's exciting. Like, like the first shot of Jonathan Toews wearing a Jets jersey. Wow.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. The other guy, you always went, hey, the Manitoba boy, he's going home to play for the Winnipeg Jets. So for that reason, amongst others, I'll maintain it's a wonderful time of the year because that's when it becomes real, right? Like you read about it and you see it like, okay, Evander Kane now with the Vancouver Canucks. But until you really see the player and the new uniform, like now all of a sudden there's a denser gravity to it and it really hits home. I love it. I absolutely love this time of year.
Development camp in the summer for a prospect that was just drafted. You get to see him in a logo. Even prospects games in the fall where you get those prospects wearing the logo in a competitive, pseudo-competitive. They're just something. We're all waiting for the real bullets to fly, obviously, but it's it placates us to a degree.
What makes a successful season for a guy like Evander Kane? At the age of 34, is it with his track record? Is it just getting through this season with very little drama? Is it staying healthy for an entire season? Do you think that there's still enough left there in the tank after not playing in the regular season that he can be productive for a team that Needs some goal scoring help.
It's not as if, the Vancouver Canucks got him off the scrap heap. Like, there have been teams that have been interested in Evander Kane. I'm very much of the mind that there was at least one of the New York-based teams that had been interested in Evander Kane going back to his days with the Edmonton Oilers. And I had wondered whether that would ever come to fruition. I haven't been able to pin down which team that was, but nonetheless. So it's not as if this is if it doesn't work out, it's not like Canucks or bust here, I think, for Evander Kane. I still think a player that brings what Evander Kane does to the lineup is something that is unique. That is, and more so than ever now, desirable for teams. I've always said here in this most recent era, whenever I go to games, doesn't matter NHL, junior hockey, or minor/youth hockey, I always come back saying the same thing: where did all the bad skaters go? And in a world where there's no bad skaters and everyone can play and everyone's got skill, managers will always say, yeah, what else can you give me? And Evander Kane has that. What else can you give me? But I think, J-Pat, you nailed it off the top. First thing for Evander Kane is stay healthy. Because Evander Kane only knows how to play one style of game, and that is physical. And if he can stay healthy and get through the season with the Vancouver Canucks, I think that's the first box you check. If you're Evander Kane, you know what he's going to do. You know he can produce. You know he can play physical. I think the first thing for him is staying healthy.
We mentioned Elias Pettersson was here as well. Only the guys in the room.
Nice video. Good video.
Only the guys in the room saw whether or not he was actually swole or not. I think there's a limit. I think there's a cap. I don't think he's all of a sudden. Remember David Boston, the NFL player who was just jacked beyond belief. I don't think we're getting to that point with Elias Pettersson. But the video that we saw, I mean, and the really more the words than the video, Jeff, from his trainer saying that this guy, things clicked this summer. Is that helpful or hurting? Because it does raise the bar of expectation for the player now.
I hate to rain on the parade here. I hate to bring this conversation to a dead stop. But knowing we were going to be talking about this morning, I checked in with the league, and I don't know how to break it to you, but they're not allowing cones on the ice this year.
They're not.
I know that we all love the video and how good he looked, but they're not allowing, bumper caps, and they're not allowing cones onto the ice this year. I say
Dana Merzen's not playing. Oh, that's mean. That was mean.
Oh, wow.
That was mean.
What was the old joke? What's the difference between a pylon and Dana Merzen? A pylon doesn't bite on the toe drag. Anyway, we move along here on the program. He looks good. And that's fantastic. Everybody knows what's at stake here. Everybody knows, and he's spoken openly about it and quite defiantly about it. And I think the last time that we were together, we talked about this, how much I admire that kind of defiance from an athlete. I think he's got a lot to prove to the Vancouver Canucks. I think he's got a lot to prove to the Vancouver Canucks fans. I think he's got a lot to prove to himself as well. To me, right now, Elias Pettersson, and again, it's only Daniel Broberg puts out the video, of course, and he's looking good. So far, everything is right on course.
Yeah, exactly.
For the revenge tour for Elias Pettersson. Do we see the 100-point guy again? Sure, it'd be great if you do, but give me 85 points and two-way play and that heavy shot back, then I'll really start saying this is even better news than we could have thought of. But right now, everything just looks on track. How about that?
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Want to throw a question at you? I wrote a piece this morning at Canucks Army asking how much pressure should Patrick Allvin be facing as the general manager of the Vancouver Canucks. He's the GM of a Canadian market. Of course, a team in a Canadian market. There's going to be pressure. And I don't think his job is in jeopardy. I guess maybe the better question is, as long as Jim Rutherford is still here, is Patrick Allvin safe as the general manager of the Vancouver Canucks? Or, if this season goes sideways, that will be 4.5 years on the job with one playoff appearance. At what point does the temperature, do you think, rise under this general manager?
I don't think we're there yet for Allvin. I think we all understand the dynamic here and what's happening. Now, we're assuming that the word fair exists. And I've always told my kids, you set yourself up for disappointment if you believe the word fair. Go to your dictionary, kids, and go to the section headlined F and the page that has fair on it, rip it out. and tear it up and throw it away because there's no such thing as fair. We've seen this before. So would it be fair if all the pressure right now is on Patrik Allvin? Well, look, he's part of the management group, but I think we know ultimately where decisions are made and where the big conversations are being had. And I think that Rutherford understands that himself, and he would be the first to stand up and say, that was my decision. I will own it. That's always been Jim Rutherford, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think, J-Pat, for that reason, I think that right now, the first place you're going to look if things look bad after 20 games here is Rutherford, but not Patrik Allvin. I mean, are you sympathetic with that, or do you think, I mean, you're closer to it, but
no,
that's how I see
that
it.
Dynamic of ultimately the buck stops with JR. It's a different dynamic than a lot of general managers around the National Hockey League. So no, but I just think at some point, and look, if it doesn't work out for this group, it's a reflection on both Patrik and Jim. I think ultimately they're going to have the opportunity to settle this Quinn Hughes matter one way or the other, and that probably is going to determine their legacy as the management group of the Vancouver Canucks.
You know, it's interesting reading the quotes from Quinn Hughes, and it's, you know, I can tune out the noise. You know, in parentheses somewhere, it should be written noise that the Canucks themselves, and specifically Jim Rutherford, started.
Yeah,
right? Like this, like what would happen if Jim Rutherford never said that? What would the conversation? Would there be that conversation 2 years out about Quinn Hughes and his brothers, or would that just be reserved for the final season? Like in a perfect world, we know, and again, like we know he can't sign for a year anyhow. But if Rutherford never made those comments, I know if some butts, candies, and nuts would all have a Merry Christmas. If Rutherford never made those comments, would there be any of this right now?
It would be sporadic at best.
At best, I agree. I mean,
look at Connor McDavid. Like, it's Connor freaking McDavid, and you know that story. Will he leave? Didn't really ramp up until the last few months here on the summer that he can renew. Like, it waited until that moment, and we're still a year away from that for Quinn Hughes. So
yeah, but it's because if the Vancouver Canucks, like, you know, we just talked about Patrik Allvin and Rutherford a second ago. If the Vancouver Canucks in their mind think to themselves, there's no amount of money that can get Quinn Hughes to stay, should they not be listening on everybody?
Yeah. And
does that not just completely change the direction of this organization?
It absolutely does. Did you hear anything? Let's just compare, I guess, and contrast. Yeah. And there is a different timeline here between McDavid and Hughes. Yeah. Did you see anything in there that raises eyebrows? And I'm talking Quinn Hughes right now.
From Quinn Hughes? Quinn Hughes is behaving like a thorough pro.
Yeah.
Quinn Hughes is going out of his way not to throw logs on the fire. Mm-hmm. Quinn Hughes is behaving like you want your captain to behave. Like he grows up in a hockey family. He understands this. Quinn Hughes is going out of his way to focus on things that he can control. You know, I'm going to help lead this team to the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to focus on my game and being the best version of myself that I can be, et cetera, et cetera. Like he is doing, and I can tune out the noise, which is of course a big one, because there's going to be plenty around this team this year. It always is around any Canadian team. But to me, he's saying all the right things. Like honestly, like right now, you know, Paterson, optimism. Quinn Hughes, this has the potential to be an absolute, you know, tornado in a trailer park. But he's trying to make sure that this is a contained fire. Make no mistake, like there's a fire here, but he's trying to make sure that this fire is contained. He's not interested in adding to any of it. To me, he's striking all the right notes right now. He's being a pro. The
only thing that sort of caught my eye was really nothing to do with his departure, was his acknowledgement. And it's right, it's truth. But if I'm a Canucks fan, I'm a little hurt that he's so ready to acknowledge it. And there's some context around it. But when he says we're not going to be the most skilled team, like that tells me
that's okay.
And he's right too. Neither are the Florida Panthers. They're top 10, but they're not.
Perfect example.
They're not tops.
If at the beginning of last season, coming off a Stanley Cup win, Matthew Tkachuk said, "You know what? We're not the fastest. We're not the most skilled." Everyone would have said, like, Yeah, but that's not how you guys win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
You guys aren't full of burners, and you're not a traveling all-star team. Like that's not how you win the Stanley Cup. There's a lot of different ways that you can win a Stanley Cup. In the NHL, everybody tries to ape or whatever was successful the season before, but there's more than one way to be successful in hockey, as there is in any sport. I don't know. I don't look at something like that and say anything other than that's Quinn Hughes being honest and probably acknowledging that if we're going to win, we're not going to win it by outskilling teams. Just like there's so many teams right now. Like I always sort of sideways laugh at this. Carolina wins the Stanley Cup, and it's all about foot speed. Then Anaheim wins the Stanley Cup, and it's all about you got to have muscle and nuclear deterrence and blah 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 blah. Right now, everyone's trying to out-Panther the Florida Panthers, and maybe Exhibit A is the team in Toronto, where it seems like Brad Treliving is going out of his way to try to out-Panther the Panthers instead of doubling down, as many have said, doubling down on what they already have and making the best version of that team.
Right.
I have all the time I really have a lot of respect for the Hughes family and got a lot of time for Quinn. I don't see him misstepping anywhere here, even by saying like, look, we're not going to be the most skilled team. To me, that buys you credibility because you're not trying to BS anybody.
No, that's true. I hear you. Let's talk about McDavid then. Sure.
What's new?
Is this the last year for the Canucks to deal with that guy in the division?
I still don't think so. I know it's like we're not. Again, I'm coming at this from a million miles away. I don't cheer for teams. I cheer for players and I cheer for good stories. But I still think at the end of all of this, McDavid does sign. I don't know that it's a deal that will make the Edmonton Oilers fans happy. Like I don't think he's going max term. But I still think that, push comes to shove, he understands that his best chance right now in the NHL to win a Stanley Cup is with Edmonton. They just went there twice, and they're one of the, handful of teams you can look at and say, yeah, they could be back there and they could win a Stanley Cup this year, specifically with the new LTIR and playoff cap rules that exist in the NHL. So winning is at a premium for Connor McDavid. I think he understands that his best chance to win right now is in Edmonton. Are they perfect? No. But every day that goes by is still another question. But, put me up against the wall and make a decision. It gets done before we open.
Let's go around the horn on this, guys. Let's go around the horn on this. I actually, there's part of me want the Schadenfreude of him leaving and just the boiling down to Edmonton. Yes, there is a part of me that does want that.
Okay.
But overall, I as much as he's a hurdle for the Canucks to clear, if I'm a Canucks fan, I don't want him to leave the division. I love them. It's nice to have a boogeyman to chase down. Would you, if you're a Canucks fan, should you be cheering the departure of Connor McDavid, Jeff?
If you're a Canucks fan, yeah, probably.
Just for the logistics of it all.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of clears a path if the best player in the game is no longer directly in front of you. But of course, to win the cup, it's more than just beating one player. And look, we all grew up in the Gretzky era and Michael Jordan and Joe Montana. There's something about being in the presence of greatness. And
it's not like he's winning every cup, though. Like, he's not winning the cup. So
no, but I'm just to be able to see this guy on the regular come through Vancouver.
That's what I'm saying.
And he has put on some shows here.
If you're if you just sort of remove the I understand what you're saying, Blake. Make the road a little bit easier here. Like, holy smokes, this is
could be a theory.
This is like the old days when the Oilers were killers, the Flames were killers, the Jets under Howard Chuck were killers, and here's Vancouver saying how do we do this? The cup's going through these teams here, and LA erupts every now and then. Especially in the Triple Crown line days. I get it, but I don't know. The hockey fan in me is like, this guy gets to come to our building all the time. We get to see Connor McDavid all the time. That's something you tell your grandkids, right? Oh yeah, I saw Connor a bunch of times. Just like, oh yeah, the old timers. Oh yeah, I saw Beliveau all the time. Not a lot of people are around to talk about how they saw Rocket, but you know what I'm getting at. Oh, I saw Orr, right? Or I saw Bobby Clark in his heyday and that Montreal Canadiens dynasty team. I know what you're trying to say, but
I think that was a 7-game series they played too. Absolutely. 2 years ago, that was a great series.
Yeah, absolutely. I do find it interesting though that this is going to be one of those very unique situations. And Jeff Jackson, CEO of Hockey Ops, I talked with not too long ago, talked about how this is not going to be a negotiation. This is essentially Connor McDavid saying, "This is what I want," and Edmonton
deciding his future,
giving it to him. Like, what do you want to do here? Like, this is going to be a really, really quick conversation. There's a lot of course, knowledge about the player through Jeff Jackson, Wasserman, Aura Group, etc. Judd Moldaver, the agent. Jeff Jackson trying to when he was an independent agent himself. Chasing Brian McDavid all over rinks in the GTA to try to get his kid to sign up when his only client base was Ben Harper and Sam Gagner. He knows McDavid really well, and we all know that about this dynamic, which is why I think it's going to be a really intriguing one. And right now, as uncomfortable as it may be for Oilers management and Oilers fans, you just got to say you got to wait till Connor's ready to do this, when he has the time to say, "Okay, Judd, get this done. Get this done."
Hey, you mentioned the new CBA. It sort of bubbled up again this week and the rolling implementations.
Did you take the CBA to the beach? Did you take the CBA to Hawaii to chill out?
I left it behind.
Honey,
You're simply spiked.
I did, but I'm wondering how much you've drilled down, because I've seen smarter people than me suggesting that with the LTIR changes and some other tweaks that it's setting up for less player movement in season, which, look, you've hosted talk radio and talk shows forever. Like nothing in this sport that we all love gets people talking like trades. And I guess I fear, like, really, are we moving in that direction, that there's going to be less in-season move? Like, I think that's a bad thing for the game, isn't it?
I don't disagree with you. I know, like, I think a lot of this, like, we'll focus on a couple of things. Like the double retention issue. The double retention issue is a weird one because it seemed to come out of nowhere. Like, who's been complaining about double retention? Right? Yeah. I haven't heard a manager complain about it. I haven't heard players complain about it. Fans certainly don't complain about it. J-Pat, to your point, it encourages and promotes more movement. What I was told about this not too long ago, the double retention idea, is from, I think it might have been one of the governor's meetings, where someone brought up the idea that what we don't want in the league is teams retaining salary just to get to the cap floor. The idea being that you want to force smaller market teams to actually spend money on players.
On humans.
The better those teams are. Again, this is all going to go back to the one point that I've always made, and the one job that Gary Bettman has. The better the small market teams perform, the higher their franchise value is. And the higher the small market franchises value goes, so do larger markets as well. And I've always reminded myself, someone told me this years and years and years ago, and it's always stuck with me. This person said, Gary Bettman has one job. You always have to remember this. Gary Bettman has one job. And I said, he only has one job? He goes, yes, his job is franchise value. That's it. Everything is in service of raising the value of franchises. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of sort of, dressing that goes around that, but everything is to serve franchise value. And there are some very forward-thinking owners who believe that the better the small markets do, the better the larger markets will do, because their value will grow even more exponentially than they already have been with a salary cap. As restricted as the new CBA is too, it's going up even more because of it. So I always say to myself, this is a way for the NHL to force teams not to just have dead cap space, which they hate, just to make the floor. I mean, how many Datsuks, Webers just showed up on the Coyotes cap just so they could hit the floor, right? And it just allowed the Coyotes to spin their wheels. And I don't think the NHL sees any value in that. So I think that's where that one comes from. To your other point, though, you're right. This is a more restrictive CBA, and it is, when we consider the art of running a team, the art of the general manager, man, handcuffs around GMs are even becoming more tight now. It's tighter. Remember the carefree, freewheeling days of Bill Torrey and Sam Pollock, where they were the architects of the team. We talked about Patrick Allvin a couple of seconds ago. Not that it's like a hostile move towards the managers, but man, it's tough to be a manager now. It is so restrictive. And if you want to change your team quickly, good luck.
No, give me the Flames and the Leafs basically swapping rosters midseason. Come
12
on.
players. I know.
Mike Gillis is on line one. He'd like you to know that handcuffs have been around for a while now.
Yeah. I always, speaking of Mike Gillis too, do you ever wonder, and I think we looked at this CBA and said, geez, where are the wins for the players? Mike Gillis was a finalist for that executive director position for the NHL Players Association. I just wonder how different this CBA negotiation and B final document would have been if Mike Gillis would have got the job.
Yeah, I mean, his personality, like his way of communicating has changed, and he's softened a lot in that regard. But ultimately, I think he'd become a hawk in the negotiation room. Ultimately, so I agree. It probably would have been. That's why I don't put it this way. I don't think we'd have the changes right now. Yeah. I think he'd say there's no pressure for us to do a deal right now, so we're not doing a deal. Jeff, pleasure as always. We can smell it. It's close.
It's close. We're coming. It's
just the coolant in the Zambonis, but I can smell something. We're getting close.
Oh, bad coffee and Zamboni fumes. It's almost here, boys. Here we go. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks.
So Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center would rather be at the Redwoods Golf Course right now, of course, playing that spectacular 18-hole layout there that is back open over the last couple of years after reconstruction.
Yeah, but as far as you hit the golf ball, all the smog right now, you wouldn't see your drives.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now it is back to school. Parents will have differing opinions on that. One of the things you have to organize is what do we do when those kids come back at 3 o'clock? The Redwoods has the answer to that. After school junior camps running through this late part of summer, whatever you want to call this, before September 22nd, you get in trouble saying that's the end of the summer because people go, no, it's another 3 weeks. Whatever you want to call this season, the Redwoods can help. Kids age 6 to 16, set your kids up for a sport that lasts a lifetime, of course. Private and semi-private junior lessons are available, flexible to your schedule and theirs. And winter lessons will become available as well with, of course, the training center there, undercover and suitable for 12 months of use. Group lessons are available at redwoods-golf.com/instruction. Get out to the Redwoods and be better at golf. Be more like Jeff, a little less like Blake. Let's talk some football because it is opening night. Now, I know there's a little controversy about the Red Zone having commercials today. RIP commercial-free Red Zone. I know that was a big thing for a lot of people. Were you a Red Zone guy? Did you ever...
Not really. I
like to watch
a game.
Yeah. Gregg Bell joins us from Seattle, our Seahawks insider. Greg, were you ever a Red Zone? Welcome, by the way. Were you a Red Zone guy? You're generally at the park.
Yeah,
of course,
I don't even know what Red Zone is. I've been in post boxes for 25 years. What the hell's Red Zone? I'm in the stadium.
It's a big night, even for Seahawks fans. They don't have their team playing tonight, but it's a big night. Everybody's looking forward to Sunday, though. 49ers and Seahawks to kick things off. Abe Lucas, let's get to news of the day. Abe Lucas signs. Everybody likes the specimen. It's a matter of whether or not he can stay on the sidelines and on the field on a regular basis. Is that attainable, do you think?
Well, that's the reason they're giving him the deal. 3 years, $46 million. Mike Garofalo of NFL Network reporting the terms first this morning. And they waited to see how he responded to the patella tendon surgery. He had that in January 2024. It was to correct what Pete Carroll previously had called a chronic knee injury, knee pain that Lucas had pretty much since they drafted him from Washington State. He never missed any time at Washington State. They draft him in the third round. They make him the starting right tackle from day one in 2022. But he was always banged up, hurt, dragging that leg. When he had the surgery in January 2024, guys, he told me the surgeons told him it would be a full 12-month time until he was right. Well, he came back in 10 months last year and played in November, played the last 7 games, and he admitted after the season to me that he wasn't fully right. He wasn't going to make that as an excuse, but he was still short of that 12 months. Well, now he's well past the 12 months, and this was the first off season he's had fully healthy to just train rather than rehab his knee, and it's made all the difference to him and to the team. He's looked great at right tackle. He's been part of this resurgence so far, knock on wood, of the offensive line. And he is the bookend with Charles Cross. And now this extension has both he and Cross signed past 2025. This was supposed to be their end of their rookie year deals season. Cross, of course, has the 5th-year option for 2026. They're trying to work. He could be the next announcement of an extension because they've been trying to get a multi-year deal done with Cross so that they can have a better salary cap number than the $17.5 million they're guaranteeing him under that 5th-year option for 2026 currently. But suffice to say, guys, they think they have the two sure things on the offensive line in their tackles, and so they've now given them both deals beyond their rookie deals, and that's not something they do often around here.
Good offensive lines are often holy grails for a lot of teams, and so improvement in the offensive line is huge. Do you see this, and it's just early goings here, but do you see this as mostly beneficial to the run game or to providing Sam Darnold a little bit more of a leisurely time in finding targets that may not be A1 targets, obviously? So he might need better looks to find the depth receivers on this team than he might if he had, superstars in 3 or 4 positions here.
Well, it's both, Blake, because it goes hand in hand. The bottom line, the whole scheme, the whole idea here for the Seahawks by hiring Clint Kubiak, the new offensive coordinator, by hiring John Benton, a new line coach, Rick Dennison, a new run game coordinator. Dennison and Benton have 47 combined years of coaching outside zone. Go back to Mike Shanahan's Denver Broncos in the 1990s. That's when Rick Dennison was the offensive coordinator. That's how long they've been doing outside zone. The difference is Lucas has accurately, and I think adroitly explained it. Last year, they were trying to do a little bit of everything. They were doing some gap scheme. They were doing some pull. They were doing some man blocking. They were doing some inside zone. They were doing outside zone. Practicers of a bunch of things and masters of none. This year, they are mastering one thing, outside zone. And that has been, as Lucas describes it, clarifying for the offensive line to just focus on one thing, one technique, one step each play. And the hope is that by doing fewer things, like 1 instead of 5, that the offensive line can be that much better. So far, so great. Now, the preseason is the preseason, of course. But they ran for 119 yards in the first quarter against the Kansas City defense that had half its starters in the second preseason game. Guys, we know they haven't run for 119 yards in some months in recent seasons. They did that in one quarter with the starting offensive line, the only quarter that they played in the preseason. So early returns, great, but I will say this. They hired Mike McDonald to beat the 49ers. This will be, even though it's only week 1, this will be a nice measuring stick for how this offense is progressing. McDonald spent all of his rookie season last year remaking the defense. He's spending this year remaking the offense. We'll see how it looks. For Darnold, the pass game is predicated on the run here. They don't want Darnold to be what Geno Smith was. They don't want him in shotgun, throwing the ball 40 times and trying to just throw the ball up and down the field, throwing on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, throwing in the red zone. They want it to be run, 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 play action pass. Play action pass, run, play action pass. Darnold, by all metrics, was the best play action passer, the highest rated, 146 out of 158.3 is perfect. 146 throwing play action passes inside the numbers, meaning not rolling extended bootlegs, but just turning and quickly pivoting and looking down the field after play action pass. Sam Darnold was the best in the league doing that last year. He also threw for 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns last year. The Seahawks don't want him doing that because, as you alluded to, Blake, first of all, he doesn't have the receivers he had in Minnesota. The Vikings have the best receivers in the world, Addison and Jefferson and Hawkinson. And 2, they want him throwing the ball after running. And there will be drives Sunday that Seahawks fans up in BC and Seattle are going to be throwing stuff at their TV because they ran 3 times. It's going to happen. And they're going to run on 3rd and 6. They're going to run on 2nd and 10. They're going to run. And they're going to run, with a fullback. It's 274 pounds, a college tight end, Robbie Oots, rookie fullback. And they're going to run with 3 tight ends. So there's not going to be enough room on the field for an extra wide receiver.
Right.
But the math says you can't play more than 11 and 5 eligible receivers. So the wide receivers, I get it. They traded Metcalf. They cut Lockett. They have a 32-year-old, recently broken, former Super Bowl MVP in Cooper Kupp. and they have Jackson Smith and Jigba who's going to be playing a new position and not the slot anymore because Cup's the slot. Well, they may not even have a slot often because they're not going to be 3 wide receivers on the field. The biggest thing that you all are going to notice, if you haven't seen the Seahawks play yet, you're going to notice Sunday, all these big guys on the field to run the ball. 2 and 3 tight ends and a fullback.
Wow, that's a lot of beef.
It is. And it looks like they're going to be under center, I formation. It's going to look like 1979 Washington Huskies Don James for a while, and people are going to take it's going to take a while to get used to that.
Wow.
So how does that translate then to a path to success? Like, is this going to be a team that grinds to score enough points to win and tries to win defensively? Like, are we in for a season of a tough slog, essentially? I can't imagine aesthetically that this is going to be a pretty team to watch.
And we know the secondary is good, too, so they will be able to defend.
Mike McDonald could give a damn about aesthetics. He wants to shove the ball down people's throats and have it shoved back up there, what's on defense. That's what he wants. Yeah. And he doesn't have an offense and a mentality up to now to do that. He rebuilt his defense to be that. Now he wants to rebuild his offense to be that. He doesn't care if he wins games like that Bears game 6-3 on the Thursday night at the end of last season because they all count the same in the standings.
Yep.
He knows to beat San Francisco, he has to play that way because they have been absolutely manhandled at the line of scrimmage trying to do it throwing the ball. They haven't held up in pass rush. They haven't had the offensive lineman to pass protect. It's not worked. So change. Instead of banging your head against the wall, let's run at them so Bosa and friends can't tee off on the quarterback. It may not look aesthetically pleasing for a while, but compared to the offensive lines that they've had recently and the performances so far, it has been so light years ahead of what it's been. And it could simply be because they're just doing one thing and mastering that.
Greg, the home versus away thing was so screwy last year. And as long as we've had you on shows up here, I mean, the Seahawks have had the best home field advantage in the National Football League. I know it's kind of waned in recent years, but to be basically unbeatable on the road last year and not be able to scratch out any wins, was that an anomaly? Was that just a one-off, or was there more to the way that they played? And how do they get back to getting the home fans and the home crowd advantage to help them?
Well, it's been a confluence of things. First of all, their teams have not been as good. The reason why they were so good at home is because they were so good everywhere. They could have played teams on Mars when they had the Legion of Boom and Marshawn Lynch and Russell Wilson in his prime. It doesn't matter who they play, where they played, they were winning. That in turn meant that the Seahawks season ticket holders held onto their tickets and watched the team to win. They sat in the rain knowing they were going to watch wins. Well, once the teams got worse, then they weren't winning as much. And then the Seahawks fans said, wait a minute, you're raising my ticket prices and the team got worse and I'm watching losses? You want me to pay 20% more year over year to watch them lose? Nah, I'll sell them to 49er fans and cheeseheads, make a profit, make some of that money back that you're charging me more this year, and I'll stay at home and watch them lose in front of a fireplace and some chocolate. So that, in a nutshell, is why you see so many road fans in the games.
It does sound good, by the way.
It does. Yeah. Better than in the rain and watching them lose. They went 3-6 at home last year. I mean, that's unheard of in Seattle.
Crazy.
Even when they were the middling Dennis Erickson 8-8, 9-7 teams, they weren't that bad in the Kingdom. That has been a focus all offseason talking about that. They think that the reason they've lost the home games is because they start so slowly. Last year was the first time in 6 years, that they were outscored in the first quarter of games by a lot. So Mike McDonald has gone, guys, so far to study the NBA and how they prepare for games. He found during the offseason the best NBA teams with the best records, all the top teams in recent years, that they asked them, how do you prepare for game? What's your pregame routine like? I mean, like on the floor warmups. And what they found was the best teams in the NBA warmed up less, and they spent less time in pregame drills, and it optimized their physical performance during the game. So now the Seahawks go out on the field, and they're there for like 5 minutes. Usually it's 15 or 20. In the preseason, they were on and off the field like they were barely on it. McDonald's also changing the way and how much they eat on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays before kickoffs. He's changing how they're traveling. He's changing how and when they're giving them the game plan for the coming game. He's gone into those much of weeds to try to get faster starts to fix this home problem. It's not an anomaly. It's been like this for years. The home field advantage is gone, and that's the first task starting on Sunday is to get it back.
I'm not going to ask you how Darnold looked because it is what it is. It's been training camp and preseason. The proof will be in the pudding. But let me ask you this, and I don't know if this prop exists anywhere. Probably not. It's a little too specific. But if I asked you, would you want to make the bet that Jalen Milroe makes a start based on coach's decision, not injury, this season? Would you want to jump on that bet if it was at all a tantalizing number?
No way, Blake. I mean, the season will have gone sideways, backwards, and in the toilet. Because they also have Drew Lock, who's also proven he can win a game in a pinch with them. And they gave him a 2-year deal as a backup, which is really rare. It's usually a year-to-year proposition of veteran backups. They gave Lock 2 years. And that's the hedge on if Sam Darnold really does fall on their face, they feel confident Drew Lock could come in. He won that Monday night game against the Eagles a couple seasons ago when Geno Smith wanted to play and didn't. So they have some confidence in Lock. Milroe, though, is going to play, including on Sunday. And he's going to be the package guy. Think Taysom Hill, but more of a quarterback than a bruising fullback, H-back tight end. Yeah. But that's what Kubiak did with the Saints. They brought Taysom Hill in, and then the defensive coordinators around the league had to spend days and days game planning for that package. That's what Kubiak – they've been advertising it. McDonald 2 weeks ago just came flat out and said, yeah, we're having a package of plays for Milroe to run the ball in short yardage and special situations so that Robert Saleh, the 49ers, Mike Tomlin of the Steelers next week, and so on, are now going to have to go waste or spend some of their hours and days working on that. So you're going to see –
periodically, Hill would throw on the they would cross everybody up and they would let Hill throw too. Do you think they would use trickery there and let?
And that's what they're saying is when I bring up the Taysom Hill, Clint Kubiak and McDonald's, no, Milroe's a quarterback. Yeah. Hill was more of a runner only. They intend for Milroe to throw the ball.
Okay.
And it is a very fascinating aspect to this season because they have not had this at all. They think of all the quarterbacks they've had. They've only drafted 3 in Snyder's 16 years. They've never had a quarterback for a special package of plays to replace the starter in a game.
No.
This is a dimension they've never had. You're going to see about 5 or 6 plays on Sunday with Jalen Milroe in
there. Go ahead.
Well, their focus is on the 49ers, and I understand that. That's the game in front of them. I just want to broaden a little bit here. The month of September, they're San Francisco here on Sunday, then they're in Pittsburgh, they're home to New Orleans, and then they're at Arizona. What's best case scenario getting out of the gates for this team? Like, can they be 3-1 at the end of the month? Is 2-2 an acceptable record from the first 4 based on those opponents and the travel they've got? How do you look at the sort of the early start, just trying to stabilize out of the gates?
I think that they need to be 3-1 and think they should be 3-1. New Orleans is starting over, and then whatever their quarterback's going to be by week 3, whether it's the rookies, Tyler Slough or whoever it ends up being, but Rattler. But they think they can beat Pittsburgh. I know they got Aaron Rodgers, but they think they have a style that can win and travel and win anywhere. They have to beat the 49ers. It's why they hired McDonald, like I said. Now, it's not a must-win game in week 1, but you get the drift.
Yep.
Here's another reason why week 1 is important. The 49ers, remember, because of how many injuries they had last year, they finished last in the NFC West, 6-11. That means that the weeks the Seahawks, of course, finished second. The weeks that the games the Seahawks have with the second place schedule are at Pittsburgh, against Minnesota, and what was the other one? Washington on a Sunday night, the NFC finalists from last year. Those same weeks, the San Francisco is playing Cleveland, the Giants, and the Bears.
Oh, my gosh.
That could be a 3-game swing right there.
Right.
But you can't give away games in the division if you know that you can lose a game or 2 or 3 in that swing between the second and last place schedules. That's what makes Sunday so important.
Lastly, should Seahawks fans care about tonight? Are they cheering against the Cowboys? Do they need the Cowboys to ensure, the Eagles are going to be good, if not great. Do you need to make sure the Cowboys suck, just in terms of wild card hedging?
I think anyone with a pulse that lives outside the Metroplex hopes that Dallas sucks, no matter what year it is.
Yeah, That's true. That's true.
And so, yeah, I think people love hating Dallas anyway. But to your point, in terms of where the Seahawks are going, you would hope, if you're a Seahawks fan, that potential wild card teams fall until the Seahawks prove whether they can be a division.
Right. That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not sure the Eagles are going to win the East. I really love Dan Quinn and what he's already done, and now Jalen Daniels. We'll see if the league figures out Jalen Daniels. I have a feeling with Dan Quinn and Jalen Daniels, they may figure out the league before the league figures out them.
Thanks for this. It's exciting. Can't wait to have something to watch tonight. The U.S. Open's given us something to watch lately. Here yeah. But looking forward to this. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Anytime. As soon as the puck drops, I'll never hear from you, but that's okay. Thanks a lot.
So Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center, and you cheer louder, you cheer better when you're well rested. So book your staycation at the Wall Center for this upcoming season or this current season. Just minutes from the stadium and arena, and unlock the Harrison Price rate by calling 604-331-1000. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. Of course, locally owned, Vancouver proud. Wall Center has been your downtown home base for 30 years, steps away from Robson, Yaletown, and the seawall.
We remarked that it was remarkably quiet when we came in here on Tuesday after Labor Day.
Yes.
That has changed. I see that conventions are happening again.
Back in the swing.
Mm-hmm. There's the lobby, the upper lobby, the lower lobby. They're all buzzing. So place to be.
Still in the swing is Felix Auger-Aliassime. Man, is this guy on a run. Into his second ever Grand Slam semifinal. After, Jeff, one of the tightest 4-set matches you will ever have seen. I loved, by the way, waking up and having that on.
Yeah.
Because we were off yesterday, and I sat and watched the entirety of that. It was absolutely perfect.
I'm not going to lie, because, remember, it was my best bet on Tuesday was that it was going to go the distance.
Right.
And
it should have.
The fourth set looked like it was getting away from Felix.
Yep.
And I was starting to peacock a little bit, thinking like, all right, my ship's coming in here. And then I can just sit back and watch the fifth set and enjoy it, knowing that I've hit my bet.
Yeah.
Now, I'm glad it didn't go distance, and I'm sure Felix is as well. The turning point was the second set tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Because he didn't look as sharp in the first set as he had in his two previous matches.
Neither guy had it. But
we said de Minaur doesn't give up on anything and was just able to grind out the first set. And Felix didn't play poorly. He wasn't as sharp as he had been. He started to find his serve in the second set.
Few more forehands.
But when it got to a tie, he had to win the tiebreaker. You go down 0-2, the stats just tell you, chances are you're not going to win. And so for him to grind out the second set tiebreaker, get back on level, I remember seeing the big clock behind him. After two sets, they'd played 2 hours and 15 minutes.
It's crazy. And if he's going to have any chance against Sinner, he can't have a 5.5 hour round, right? So that was great. You talked about de Minaur getting to everything. Yeah, watching it in action was just tremendous and the commentators were saying it throughout the match, and it just became more and more true. There's a bunch of forehands that don't get into the stats category as forehand winners because de Minaur gets to them, but 95% of the field isn't getting to that. So de Minaur made it look a lot closer than it was. It's 4 p.m. tomorrow versus Jannik Sinner. And get this, he destroyed his countryman in straight sets, Musetti, yesterday. His last two matches, 6 sets of play, because he won straight sets both times. He's lost 10 games in total over those 6 sets and 2 matches. Felix Auger-Aliassime yesterday alone lost 23 games.
And Musetti's the 10th seed in the tournament.
Yeah.
And he just bulldozed him.
Bulldozed.
He's the defending champ. Felix is in tough here, but Felix is playing probably his best tennis, and he's serving better than anybody in this tournament. Leads the tournament in aces, and it really has become a weapon for him. So, yeah, excited to see. Step in the ring and throw your best punch at the best player in the game right now.
The only guy who's given Sinner any trouble at the tournament is Denis Shapovalov, who became his own worst enemy and devolved versus Sinner. But he took a set off Sinner, and even the sets that he lost, he won a handful of games, each of them. So I wonder, and Felix and Denis are best buddies, so I wonder if there's some possible scouting that could happen I mean, I don't know. He's just really good, Felix. Like, maybe it's as simple as that, but can't wait. 4 p.m. tomorrow, approximately, because you never know at the U.S.
And
Open.
Alcaraz and Djokovic in the other semi.
Holy cow. There's enough mystique around Djokovic still, and Alcaraz is Alcaraz. I actually think if you could have picked of the three, I think Sinner's the best one for Felix to take on, even though he's playing lights out right now. Gabby Dabrowski, the other Canadian that's still in action in any of the other draws, she plays tomorrow, part of the third-seeded doubles team. It's a semis as well with an Australian partner. They're taking on the top seeds, featuring Taylor Townsend, who just beat Leila Annie Fernandez and Venus Williams. That goes at 9 a.m., so you can wake up to a Canadian and then get one later as well. Now, I was this week years old when I realized that Cincinnati Stadium for the Reds is basically Williamsport. The ball flying out of there. Jays win 13-9. They win 2 of the 3. Starting to course correct perhaps just a little bit. 3.5 game lead now on both the Red Sox and the Yankees. And George Springer and Bo Bichette are basically the only reason. You see Springer now with his leadoff home runs.
Yeah.
I think it's only Ernie Witt ahead of him. No, Pat Borges still got a handful more, but he's that's multi-hit games from that was the Alejandro Kirk stat. No, Springer is now the all-time leader past Devon White. But Bichette and Springer are crazy right now. I read that the only players with a comparable 45 game stretch to Springer in Major League history, Ruth and Garrick, in terms of
pretty good company to keep.
Home runs, hits, RBI, stolen bases, like the traditional stats. His 45 game stretch now, Ruth and Garrick are the only ones that can compare, and Bichette has been damn good too.
I saw the graphic there. I mean, plus 400 batting average.
Yeah.
Since the All-Star break. Like, we're not talking a week or a 10-day stretch here.
It's a quarter of the season.
Yeah. And remember, there were some real injury concerns with George Springer earlier this season as well. So good to see him back healthy and obviously having the success that he is having for the Blue Jays. And, yeah, it was a good night for the Jays. They win, and the Red Sox and the Yankees lose. So picking up a full game in the standings on both of those teams.
Your Mariners, not so much.
No, the ship is taking on some water here.
It's panic time. 1.5 games up on the final wild card now. 3 straight. They get swept by the Rays. And Jeff, we've talked about it. Like, with the roster on paper, I think if they get in, they could be capable of going on a run and going deep. But they need to get in.
Yeah, 3 in a row, 4 wins in their last 10, so not trending in the right direction. And it is wild to me online, just the reaction, people that I follow that either cover the Mariners or people I know that have followed the Mariners for years. And it is the same reaction. It's like, here they go again. These are the Mariners. It's like every year in September, there's the buildup and then the great letdown.
The doomsday scenarios that fans here have for the Canucks, Seattle has for the Mariners.
Oh, the parallels are incredible.
Like, you don't say that about the Seahawks. You don't say you don't say that about the Whitecaps. No one goes, "Oh, Whitecaps luck." Like, that's not a thing.
Nope.
It is for the Canucks. It is for the Mariners.
But the franchise parallels are amazing, right down to the fact that they're both still waiting for their first championship.
Yes.
But Hall of Fame players. Like, you can't sit here and say they haven't had great players.
Some of the greatest ever. A-Rod and Ken Griffey are some of, like, I don't know, top 20 greatest players ever, 30 maybe,
But just so much angst, so much frustration, and ultimately more losing than winning. And so it's going to be fascinating to see someday, somewhere, one of those teams who can break through.
The C's are out for the playoffs. We know that already, despite being the best team from tip to tail. But the way the Northwest League works, they're not going to be able to play in the playoffs. But they're still pumping out the wins, the runs, and the fans are loving it. The C's bounced back with an 8-2 win last night. Sean Keyes, his team leading 17th home run. Arjun Amala, who joined us yesterday, had a triple, brought home some runs as well. The penultimate night game of the season tonight at 7:05 in Nat Bailey Stadium. The crowds have been spectacular for this final homestand. Meet and greet with James Paxton, which is very cool, at the park tonight. Nooner tomorrow, which, of course, is your last chance to watch baseball instead of work, which sounds like a good trade-off. For tickets, call 604-872-5232, and tickets are on sale for this final homestand. So get in, have a ball. Mike Rogerson has been
He's a fixture.
He's a fixture. He's gone back to back.
Ballpark Mike, I think, is how he's now known in some circles.
Cleaned out the hat rack.
Yes, he did. Brought home. I'm going to be one of these guys with the
hey, we can both do that.
Upside down hats. Yeah, new C's hats. CanadiansBaseball.com for tickets there. One last note: Canadian men's soccer. Again, this is your programming note for tomorrow. Between U.S. Open and Canadian men's soccer taking on Romania tomorrow at 11 a.m. our time. They've apparently got an 80-year-old head coach. Romania does, who Jesse Marsh admits he's a bit quirky in his preparation. So they're on edge about that. Liam Miller's not with the team. If you remember, but he's got an ACL injury that is now fully cleared, so he's back fully training with Hull City in the championship. So he could be a fixture for one of the 5 remaining friendlies that they've got left on the schedule. And we've told you about all of them, but just when you put it all together, it's pretty impressive. Like, we've talked about this resurgent, or not resurgent, just surgent Canadian men's program. They're taking on Romania, who are 48th ranked, so they're not too historic here. But then the 28th ranked Canadians will visit number 31 Wales, which is a pretty cool matchup to see Canada taking on Wales in Wales. Then they host number 24 Australia in Montreal on October the 10th. They'll take on number 14 Colombia in Harrison, New Jersey on October the 14th. And then in the November window, it's Ecuador. We told you about that last time out. In Toronto on November the 13th. And they've got another game that has not yet been announced in that November window. Again, it's tough to expect the Europeans to take the extra flight over to Vancouver. Man, it would be nice if that one, I'm suspecting it's Eastern. Given they've already got one in that window in Toronto, I suspect it will be an Eastern date, but it's the middle of winter at that point. Like, coming to BC Place, wouldn't that be good?
Place with the roof
yeah,
on it.
We can make it a lot more comfortable. So cross your fingers. You never know. Bogey G's poll question from last show. How do you feel about Elias Pettersson's upcoming season with the Canucks? We started with the full-throated optimistic, the middling, I'm nervous, and then the negative pessimistic. I think you know that optimistic probably won. Because that's where this fan base generally hedges. The question is the number.
Certainly in early September.
Yes. Yeah. The question is the number. What do you think the number was?
3-option poll question. Generally, the numbers aren't, the winning number isn't as high. I'm going to say 58.
That's good. 61.
Oh, okay. Nervous
was 23. So a not insignificant number.
Right.
And now there was pessimistic at 16%. So this, and I guess there's a part of me that thought that number could get larger because there is a distinctive anti-PD camp in this city. I don't think everybody voted from that anti-PD camp because they seem larger than that with their volume on Twitter sometimes, but 16% for pessimistic. So we'll see. E's and O's from yesterday, just one reported. Thank you to Yerke as per usual. We said the last trade in the NHL was the Dakota Joshua trade to Toronto. It wasn't. Yerke pointing out the Daniil Gushin for Oscar Olason trade.
Come on, those are made-up names.
I don't know if those are real people, first of all. Secondly, that's not an NHL trade. It's an NHL-affiliated trade, isn't it? Who are these people?
Well, there's that. But also, in my own defense here, he's right to point out the trade that went down. Part of my statement was there were no trades in August. That part is still correct.
Yes.
But as Yerke pointed out, there was one minor deal made about a week after the Dakota Joshua trade. And if you're hoping that, GMs are back in the office and things are going to start to flow here, there was a minor trade in the NHL today. Tucker Robertson was traded for John Randall Avon.
Wow. Wow.
That's the Kraken and the Flyers, if you must know. So we're not fully out of this sort of period of inactivity.
Avon's the goaltender.
I'll
out
trust
of Boston University.
I'll take your word on that.
I'm just joking. I made up all of that.
Oh, okay.
I could have, and you would have believed me.
I was ready to roll with it. But yeah, shame on me. And thank you for your key for both listening or watching and
We
reaching
like being corrected.
Yeah.
Thank you for your duties this week.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? You're assigned to the rink next week. How do you feel about that?
Assigned to the Jake Milford on Monday
There's
morning.
that. The golf course first.
And so hopefully we'll get a chance to hear from a handful of players. It's generally it's not a wide availability. I don't know that we'll hear from every Canuck, but we should get our access to a few of them. And so, heading out there on Monday to Northview and then beyond that into the rink and on it goes.
There we go. We start to push away from the dock a little bit here. The journey around the globe begins. We are live on YouTube and Twitter, of course, and all of our socials as usual here on noon. And folks, on Monday, we are back 5 days a week, full-throated schedule for you. Matt Sakaris back in the seat as well. Thank you again to Jeff for sitting in. Don't forget to support all of our sponsors, and thanks for supporting us and keeping it local.